The reason I've avoided the Flux rifle so far is I looked at it and compared to the Amprex, well, yeah, it's got no crit. It's got a little bit more status. It generally seems to do about the same damage, but it's physical damage and it's a status based weapon because it's got more status and physical, and yeah, hence I've kind of avoided this thing because wow. Okay, so I do have an element on there. I'm just going to leave it as it is. So that's a major problem. Oh, I have actually used this because Primed Cryo Rounds is on here. So I've played with it recently, but not very recently because I haven't formatted in for that. But the easy solution to the conflict, leaving it as it sits before anything else, just take the weapon off. These can now all stay on. The reason I've always liked the Flux rifle, just don't use it that much, simply comes down to one major factor. You cannot buy this weapon. The only way to get it is to get the blueprint from dojos, so you have to research this thing, and field run's kind of a pain, forma not so much. Building it, only way to get it, so it's kind of like the Ogress in that fact where you have to build it. There is no purchase offer for this, which I've always loved about this thing. So of course the obvious test is the same as I did with the Synapse, same as I did with the Amprex. Heavy gunner, 155. This does have corrosive on, so I'm expecting the armor to be not such a big deal. And at the same time it's got blast, hence I'm kind of pointing this way because I'm expecting them to kind of fall over a little, but I'm not expecting much damage from this simply because, well, the other ones are just better, and that's where the blast comes into play, and it's a horrible element to put on things. But as you can see, as expected, yeah, it's overheated. I keep forgetting about that thing. The change, it doesn't run on a magazine. This thing runs on, well, it is kind of a magazine, but it's, blast damage needs to be taken off so badly. It's more of a recharging magazine. Once you hit the limit, it will stop firing, so you have to stop firing for a second and continue firing. And though this is actually taking these down quicker than I thought, that was actually pretty quick. It's not as effective as the other two, which it is a bit of a shame for the weapon, but not so at the same time, because to be honest, you're not really going to face level 155s that often. So the fact that it does take them down fairly efficiently, actually, that last half of the health is insane. But is it one of those weapons that is worth using all of the time? Well, I still think the Amprex probably has that down, just down to a complete key. It's much better for crowd control. It's just suffering the same thing all beam weapons suffer from. Their range is kind of just rubbish. It can't be overcome. The range on these has always been the thing that stops people from using them. But it is also one of the best things about them. They are more of a close to medium range weapon, and with this being a Dojo Lab weapon only, I was really hoping it was going to be a lot better than it is. I mean, it's better than it was by a long shot. I didn't think it was going to be as good as it actually was. I thought the level 155s were going to take a long time to actually end with this. It's a shame I've got it set up the way that it is set up, and I will probably play with it in time, because that blast damage, sometimes you don't really want to knock them over, and the reason I've left it is simply because for daily use it's great because it knocks enemies over, but for testing not so much, because you don't want them to fall over, you kind of want them to stay still. Can live with that, but it does make it better for everything else. But it's left me with one major question to this that, well, there's only one real way to answer, and that comes down to the range. As you can see, if I put a marker on, it's 32. Move a little bit closer till about 30 meters. Will this still do what it used to do, where if you shoot it through the shield, it increases the range on it? Oh, it doesn't. What if I pick this up? No, because it swaps to secondaries. Can you go back to my primary, please? Oh, I was really hoping shooting it through the shield was going to increase the range on these, but it doesn't. That was a thing for such a short period of time. I was really hoping that that was going to be brought back with the shield, but well, it just isn't, because as soon as I get to 30 it starts doing damage again. So in all honesty, yes, it is much better than it was. The range is still kind of a pain, but to be fair, one magazine still takes out level 155 gunners, and that's with a slight plate, and I still have an empty mod slot. These things can of course be modded for way more damage. I nearly ran out of ammo there, so I stopped, and it still went down. How you build these, of course, will depend upon what mods you have and how you play and what faction you go up against, with this being elemental. Hence, I've just been playing with the standard build I already had on it, which was a play build with primed cryo rounds in there. I probably will be forming this again. I'm definitely throwing a V in, because I think keeping that's probably a must. That, to coincide with it, still leaves me with a lovely empty mod slot that I cannot decide what to do. But just before anybody does mention it, yes, these are an option and these will increase the damage, but there is one, and if I, you know, it's probably just easier to... This does go well in weapons like this, but it's not worth it. That 600 damage is kind of meaningless. Status duration using Hunter Track could be the way to go, because it increases the status duration. It just depends, as I say, what mods you have and how you are going to use this to your own personal preferences and everything else, but it is actually better than I expected. I thought this thing was going to be quite rubbish in comparison when looking at the stats, because it didn't have the crit. Anyway, we'll leave this off here for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch yous next time.